button before I start sharing the screen. And y'all already know how I get down. I first must say thank you all for coming in at Joso, at Alexis Harris, and Brian Chad, Chetan, Christian Werber in here, Chuck, Craig V, Crypto Ella, D Wiz in the building. That's a co-host right there. Make that man co-host. What's up? Darius Bryant, David's iPhone, Devon Monfort, Deepin's iPad, Denise Hunter, Dennis, Donice's iPad. We got Donna Robinson. Y'all know how she get down. East Eartha in the building. Fireball. It must be getting lit over there. Fireball. H-Pad always showing up. We got iPhone 13 Pro. So you're gonna be different. We got Jay Key, Jessica Stevenson, Jay Ford Jr. JR, Julia C, K Durham, Los Math, Melvin Miguel, Mike Ruffin, MK, Nashay, Netcha, Nietzsche, Shay Jones, Fresh as Miz, Quinn Grant, Ray Sanchez, Renisha S, Rosa, Shay Dub, Skrilla Manning, Smith, Sabala, Steph Tanya, Tilva Nevath, golly, Tim, Tony, Tracy, and Jay Norris. What's up, y'all? Y'all came in while I was doing that, then you got missed. I think my guy Chuck came in. My other, just two Chucks in here. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? All right, y'all, what's going on? Let me check the chat, make sure everything's straight. Yep, Fireball, we know you over there with the fireball, and it's all good. All right. Pop that screen up. So, what's up, y'all? We're going over trend lines. I just want to say that I appreciate people putting ideas for classes in the class ideas section, because when we got the feedback, we have seen that a lot of people are like, yo, like, it's dope that y'all, try to cater more to beginners, but in the catering to beginners, we still be going a little too hard, like a little too advanced sometimes. So seeing that trend lines was something that I wouldn't have thought to have my class on, because I'm like, yo, we finna go over like some, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, cool. So you'll go over trend lines. We're gonna give a couple of examples. We're gonna set some up. We're gonna look at how we can trade them. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right, cool. So trend lines, what are they? Trend lines help you identify trend, but they also just make it easier to put on the chart. So it helps you visually, right? And you can put trend lines on multiple time frames. It doesn't matter what time frame you're on. You can put a trend line on there, and you can allow your trend line that's on a bigger time frame. You can flip to a lower time frame, and it'll still be respected, right? If we put a trend line on the daily, let's just say that we go ahead and we place the trend line here, all right? Let's say we put one right here. Let's go right here. And then I got to cover why I put that there. So, of course, it's all going to look a little funny when you're going back in time with trend lines, because, of course, they end up getting broken, right? But if we go here, and what I actually do to make it a little more realistic, so we do it like that right there. Cool. So what do you use for trend lines? All right. When you're looking at trend lines, what you're going to be doing is just connecting swings on the time frame. All right. So how do you identify your swing highs, swing lows? What that is looking at price move over a time period till it makes a low point, right? And then it comes up and makes a new high, right? So this is a swing low, right? This would be a swing high, all right? This would be a swing low. All right, and if you want to get down, you could say this is the swing low right here, this candle here, and then there's a swing high, and then there's a swing low. But overall, there's a swing low. And then you have a swing high. One thing y'all are going to start noticing too, if you're not used to charting, is a lot of times you're going to see M's and W's. You're going to see a lot of M's and W's on your charts. All right, so that's how you identify swing high, swing lows. What's also unique is I put this, so people always ask, what's this indicator or what's these numbers? All right, this is the pivot points high low indicator. Typically, it's the main thing on my chart because it helps me identify those levels without me having to line up my cursor and say, if I'm waiting on a high breakout, what's the high of this, what's the high of that, what's the high of that, right? Nobody got time for that. When you trade on the 1 minute, especially, you don't have time to try to go over every single candle and see what true high points are, right? So when you're looking at your trends, you're going to connect those levels. You're going to connect those highs. You're going to connect those lows. People do things differently. I like to go off of the wick, right? So if I'm looking at setting trend lines, you typically are going to want to see to confirm it. You want to see at least 3 touches, right? So if we're going through here and we can start right here. We got 1, 2, 3, and we're like, okay, this is a solid trend line that's being respected, and we can slide this on out, right? The thing about trend lines is it's a lot different than support and resistance. So you have to be a little flexible with them because they are your interpretation in a sense of where that line should be. So unless you're going to start breaking down like the exact math, then you might have a trend line that's right here, or you might move it like this a little bit, right? So it could vary. So you don't want to sit there and like use it as a super precise area because it might be off a little bit. All right. But the general idea, and one way to combat this is to, instead of drawing it manually, use the ray tool, connect one, and just line it up with one more. And then it kind of carries itself on out. Right. And so we do see those touches come in. All right, we have our initial here, and here, all right? We have our rejections of the trend lines acting as a trend line support. So it can act as trend line support and trend line resistance. And what you'll find when you have trend line support and trend line resistance is that you end up with what's called a ascending channel. All right, if it was going the other way, it would be a descending channel. All right. So ascending channels, prices continuously moving up, making higher lows. This is a low, this is a low, this is a low, this is a low. I'm glad I'm recording, I almost forgot. So, so these lows are getting higher, these swing lows like we discussed before. And then our higher highs are coming in. All right, so our swing highs are getting higher, right? And that's, of course, how you identify yourself as being in an uptrend in the first place, is are you making higher highs and higher lows? That will give us an uptrend because everything is continuously getting higher. Okay. So one of the things, and I actually can show y'all all this on this one chart, is using trend lines just to catch the bounces. Right. So when you're thinking about trading, and again, this applies on any time frame, whether you're day trading, 5 minute, 1 minute, 30 minute, however you want to do it. You can play the bounces. So you see a bounce, we come down here, you're anticipating the bounce. It bounces off of it, right? Once it bounces, you could look to take that. The safer entry will be letting it actually close because it might bounce and then drop back through, right? And not hold. So what you can also do, Brandon, this is recorded. I see you driving, bro. I want you to be safe, dog. This will be recorded. So just be safe for me, bro. Hey, bro, care about y'all, man. So it's gonna bounce, right? What you can do for the safer side is wait for it to break off above the high of that bounce candle, right? Or if we're going down, wait for it to make a new low from the candle off the bounce, right? So if we're zooming in here, we see it, we're establishing the trend line here based on these touches coming in, this touch as well. When we get this one, it did break and close above. Then the next day it broke above the high and came back down, right? Another candle here. It never came and broke this low. So this is just like kind of a live trade example. If you took the break of the high the next day, once it came above this low, now we're actually respecting that trend line. We rejected it here, right? So we rejected. Now we're making this low. That's when you take your swing for puts and you take the drop down and you get a perfect exit on the retest of the trend line support. All right. And then for the swing back up, wait until it breaks the high. All right. So this would have been your put trade would have went from the break of that low right here, that break of that low down to retest. And then you enter your calls on a break of this high to come up and retest. All right, cool. And those are swing trades, right? But this again works on whatever time frame. Okay. So you can look to trade the trend line as a resistance or support. But again, keep in mind that it's not as precise as looking at a price area such as the 454 area or 417 or 420, right? Where it's that whole horizontal supply or demand zone. It's a lot different, okay? Just like moving averages are kind of more fluid and flexible areas or indicators that can be support and resistance or treated as such. But you always want to know that it's not just a set price, right? So the other way, pause. Am I making sense? Let's do that. I have to check. If I'm making sense, y'all know what to do. Drop a Y in the chat. Let's see. We got a question already. If I'm not making sense, drop it in and then the question so we can pause. Joe says, do they have an indicator that automatically does supply and demand zones? I'm sure they do, bro. I'm positive. So we can just type supply and you see it's a ton of these pulling up, right? Supply, 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 demand, 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 demand. All right, so I'm not gonna throw them all on here. I'll just put 2 of them on just for you to see visually real quick. I don't even know where the other one is. I don't even know where this is coming in at. Oh, whoa. Yeah, it changed the candle color. So I'm not sure. So that's something you could play around with in your spare time. Is you can definitely play around with supply and demand zone indicators. You just make sure we got Y's, Y, money bags. Cool, we're good. All right. So that's the first way of trading with trend lines. We went over swing highs, swing lows, identifying trend. We went over setting your trend lines, right? Looking for those connections. I like to use the wicks. Some people use the bodies, but looking at the connections of those highs and lows. One sec. Oh. All right. So covered those two. And this is talking about trading within those trend lines and then also using the trend lines. Rosa said a break already. No, I had to let somebody in. And then also trading the trend line, trading within the trend lines as an ascending channel or descending channel. That's how you create those patterns. And then trading them as support and resistance individually, right? So let's look at trading breaks of the trend line. Appreciate you, bro. So enjoy your meal, sir. All right. So one of the ways you can look at trading them is, of course, a break. Put it down. One of the ways you can look at trading trend lines is the break of the trend line. All right, but what I like to do is I like to take it and wait for the retest. So usually what you'll see with a lot of breakout patterns is they'll come back and retest that original breakout level. And that works for breakouts, just regular day breakouts. It'll happen. Bull flags, bear flags do this a lot where they'll break out, come back and retest the flag before finishing the move, right? So we see that here. We have a gap down that gives us that break of the trend line, and then it immediately comes back up to retest, right? And so this is part of that waiting for confirmation. This is where, some of these things, like I say, rather be late to the right party than early to the wrong one. We're taking this immediate gap down for a swing on puts because we broke trend, unless you caught it at the bottom and then flipped out the next day or before end of day, you would have ended up in a bad spot, all right? But if you waited for the retest, and then once we came back and broke the low of the retest candle, which is this candle, this candle, this candle, right? Retesting. These are also all inside bars. It's not an inside bar class, but I can't sit here and not mark certain stuff. I'm sorry. I can't not mark stuff on the class. So if you're unfamiliar with inside bars, I did cover it in my gap class. We could maybe have another class on it. Moody has taught classes on it with the strat. But you just notice that pattern as well. So you have a retest of the trend line with the inside bar formation, inside days 1, 2, right? So we're waiting for a break above this outside bar or below for our entry trigger. We get the entry trigger for puts here. You can swing it down to retest the original level right here. Entry, take profit, right? And then you see it holds at support with this level, okay? So that's how you trade. The trend line, though, is you got the break, you got the retest, and then after the retest, you got the continuation bounce back down to retest that support. All right. Does that make sense? Like, y'all see how that's a trade y'all could have took, not on the call side. You could have on the call side, honestly, if you just wanted to go ahead and take above the high to swing for the retest, if you're anticipating the retest. But does that make sense? How do you know it's a put? Because you're waiting for the retest for it to bounce back down and continue to break, the bearish break. Kiana says making sense. Cool. Yeah, so you're looking at that break, right? So again, we created an ascending channel, right? Created an ascending channel based on our trend line support and our trend line resistance, right? We broke to the downside, okay? And this is just something that you learn with experience unless somebody tells you up front. Like I said before, most patterns that have breakout pattern structure are going to retest. Most of the time, I'll say, or a lot of the time, right? Okay. Yes. And so a put, thank you, Fry Daddy. A put is where you're anticipating the stock to drop. So we broke the trend line, but we're waiting for the retest because we're like, hey, it's going to retest, right? If retested and filled the gap, right? So this is me struggling to not break the chat down as deep as, I mean, the chart down as deep as I want to, so I can stay like focused for y'all. So you have the gap down, and you came back, filled the gap, which was already TP1 if you took calls. We could took it to 50 anyway. So we look for the retracement. We go ahead and then we're going puts once we break the low of the inside formation. All right, I'm gonna stick to trend lines because I'm taking that up. All right. Break it. What time frame? We're on the daily right now, but all of this applies across any time frame. You good, Vivian? Let me know. If your questions are more so pertaining to just like basic options, education, and knowledge, that we might be able to cover that in a separate class. If you go through the recorded classes section, you'll see we've covered it before. But if you have any more questions pertaining to the trend lines, then I got you. You're tracking 100. All right, cool. So we get that trend line bounce, we come back and we go back into the trend line, right? Cool. Okay, so we just covered that. We covered the break. So this was a downward break. Let's look for a break to the upside, which we have coming up here, right? So we establish our trend line. Right here, we have the highs. We're just connecting again, just connecting those levels. So we have one here, here. And we see some wicks that came up into that type of area. I'm struggling not to put zones here. I can't do it. Okay. All right. So what we're looking for now is the same sort of concept, right? Is we're looking for, of course, either a rejection back down to continue back down. Right? Our new support level is here. Or we might get a break, and then we're going to look for a retest and then continuation. It might just break and keep going, right? So not every time is it going to retest, but let's go ahead and draw this down. All right, so we see we had the break here. Next day, let's zoom in, because next day we did retest. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta, all right. I don't know what this is. Y'all see it, share it with me though. All right, y'all. So the other thing that I noticed is we had a descending triangle pattern on this too. I can't chart halfway, right? So descending triangle is primarily just composed of having trend line resistance with a horizontal base of support, right? So you see that here. Overall trend is typically going to be coming in a downtrend, followed by that, right? And in this case, trend over here was down, started consolidating to a degree, but then we see that horizontal support with a trend line resistance. Okay, so back to the trend lines, right? So we see we have the trend line here. We see we get our break. We see we get our retest, right? So now using what I just said, our next entry for calls would be if we can get a break above this high. If we can get above this high, then we can go ahead and hop on calls. We can take calls right here, and then we can start working our way up, taking out different zones where we have buyers and sellers as we go up, right? Now we gap down, back into it, held support. All right, so remember the descending triangle pattern. Let's pull that back up. All right, we got our horizontal support. We have our trend line resistance. So if we get the break, even the picture shows a retest, right? The break, retest, continuation. That's funny. All right, so put that on there because that actually explains it. All right. So now what we're looking for is, and what I want to see is it to close below here. All right, I want to see us close below here. We're holding support, support bounce, support bounce. I want to close below here so we can go ahead and take it down. Or again, wait for us to push above here so we can see that we're breaking out to the upside for these for the trend line. All right, so let's get another bar. All right, cool. So on this bar, I'm like, all right, we can wait for the retest, but our level is down here. This is where we come back and get that retest. All right, we draw this out. All right, so this isn't a 100% picture perfect retest, but if you break it down on a smaller time frame, I'm sorry, I don't know if people who know me know I'm struggling to keep this class simple. I want to go deep. You have a section with all those pictures, like triangle pic that I showed. In the basic stock education section of the Discord, you should be able to see different graphics like that. All right. So when you come down to a smaller time frame, this is the 1 hour. Let's go down to the 30. All right. So once we're on the 30, you can see where it starts flipping, right? You see we come up and we don't test that trend line that was drawn out, but then we flip right here. All right, we come down, make the new low to test this level. We bounce up, make again, right, swing high, swing lows. All right, this is a lower high coming in, and then we close right here. So now we know that we're breaking this. We have this level right here, and then once we break that level, we can take it on down. All right, but let's go back to the daily. Boom, gap up. So now the gaps are messing us up, but we got the retest. All right, so we got the retest. What's in the chat? Basic stock education. Appreciate you. Retest, hold, still never came and broke this call trigger. And what you can do is move the triggers down as you go, right? So that's one thing that I'll do is I will say, okay, cool. At this point, I'm not waiting to get up here to trigger calls. I'm gonna go ahead and take this as a trigger for calls to take it back up here. All right. And we're just gonna keep on going, see how it plays out. Cool. So there's the call entry above this candle. There's a continuation. There's the test of this level. That was a take profit level, like I mentioned. It was another take profit level, like I mentioned. All right, next take profit's up here. On the put side, we never came back down to break this. So you could have day traded inside of this on the rejection of the trend line. But once we finally broke above this high, then we can go ahead and go up. And then there's this third take profit level getting hit. Let's go to a different chart. Qs are too similar. Yeah, Anthony said I can't tone down them scale, bro. It's so hard not to like fully. You see this and this and this, and if you break this down, all right. So here's another ascending triangle, all right, and this one is more closely resembling the picture, and that's why it's important to learn the chart patterns, right? But not just learn them. I think it's more important to learn what they mean because it helps put it into more like context, right? So you can have a deeper understanding. Like a bullish engulfing candle, you know what it is. It's just when there's a big green candle that fully covers the previous candle, but it means that the buyers today were greatly overpowering whatever happened the previous day. All right, so you can internalize that and then add that to your thought process as you're making decisions. Okay, so we have the downtrend. We have our consolidation period with the rejections of the upper trend line. We have our horizontal base of support. All right, downtrend, consolidations, flat lower trend line. I don't know why they call it a lower trend line, but I guess. All right, so horizontal base, flat bottom, right? And then we have our breakout. All right, cool. We got our breakout here, come back retest, break, Continuation down, bad earnings helped out. Keep it pushing. How long do you leave your support and resistance lines on your chart? Do they not apply after a certain amount of time? So I mainly trade off the 1 minute, bro, 1 and 5. So I usually clear my stuff out at the end of the day because my chart, you didn't even see my SPY chart 'cause I cleared it all off before the class. But picture 1 minute levels. You know what I'm saying? Just me personally, picture 1 minute levels. So when I'm trading on the 1, I'm marking up so many levels during the day. It's ridiculous. And then I mark the pre-market levels as well. So I usually will take mine off. I usually will take mine off. All right. But if you're swinging, you can just wait till it's like completely broken. So you can leave the levels, especially like monthly or weekly levels, you can leave them, right? Because even if they get broken at some point, that doesn't mean they're still not there, right? They might come back and get retested later on. Right. So don't just take them off just because. I would say leave them if they're on a higher time frame. I would say leave them up. And you never know when you'll get a retest. All right. Let's get back to the trend lines. So let's do Wayfair. Let's go with W. All right. So you got the trend lines. We got using trend lines to form patterns, right? Let's go to these. So trend lines are going to come in handy when you're trading extra other patterns, right? They help you form symmetrical triangles. Ascending triangles is the flip of a descending, right? So ascending will be uptrend coming into a horizontal resistance with a trend line support, right? So knowing how to look at the trend lines and then your horizontal support and resistance lets you create and identify these patterns that are then tradable, and you can take targets off of these patterns. Okay. Like this class needs more. I don't know what it's missing. So I was doing Wayfair. Let's clear all of this. All right. So you can come out if you're still gonna do like your top down. Jeez. Right. Yeah, if y'all got questions, put them in the chat. 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 All right. Cool. Right. So I just connected this from 07 and made a monthly trend line. Right. And we actually see it got tested here. We see it resistance, resistance, resistance. And we also have trend line support right here as well. Support, support, support. Right. So we come down to the week, you see it a lot better. How it's interacting with that. 10 minutes before the end, you should just show out. No, bro. No. I gotta be real, bro. Like some of the feedback was moving too fast. All right. All right. So you see it on the weekly. And so this is how you can trade down into it. You can still set again, you can set the same stuff on a different time frame. Right. There we have a weekly trend line. All right. Why'd I put that there? Connecting. All right. So you see after these 3, right? Like I said, we're looking for 3. What do we get? Same thing I was saying before. I mean, this is back in 2012. We have our 3 touches to confirm our trend line. We come back down. That's touch number 4. We break above the high. We enter our calls. All right. We enter our calls for a swing, and then it just goes off. All right. Comes back to retest. All right, this is your retest candle. It doesn't come back and fully retest the exact line, it looks like. But then, of course, if I just move the line like this, then now all of a sudden it does retest the line. All right. So again, don't get too caught up in your trend lines, but you just want to connect. Okay. Same thing here. Get the break. We come back up for the retest, make a new low, kick down, come back up, kick down. And now it's testing that trend line support again. Questions in the chat. I feel like this class is done. I'm sorry. I don't know what trend lines, like just like the gap class, like trend lines really, you don't want to make it overcomplicated. All right. You don't want to overcomplicate it. Can I analyze the drop that happened? The nasty drop and fake out Apple trapped you in today. Yeah. What time frame you want us to look at it on? All right. We got our gap here. Right. 5 and a 15 was going for the gap fill, waited for confirmation, finally, and then immediately dropped in reverse when you entered. And then it went back up. All right, let's break it down on the 15 first. So extended hours on. So what's the, where did it open up at? This was the closed candle from yesterday. It felt, oh, this pre-market. Okay, bet. So this pre-market. Where am I at? I'm at Central Time right now. All right, so those are our pre-market levels, right? So I'm confused, Shay, where you got in and it reversed on the gap fill, because it looks like it immediately filled the gap immediately. All right, once the day opened, it went ahead and shot for the gap fill. Within the first 2 hours, it filled the gap. There's a pre-market candle. Unmute. What's up, Carlos? Yeah, Shay, pull up your chart and let me know what you mean. Because if you, we can go back, but it filled the gap. It looks like it filled the gap immediately after open. All right, we opened up here and then 45 minutes into a gap fill, or 30 minutes. Yeah, so Shay, you couldn't have got caught on a reversal for the gap fill because the gap fill got filled quickly. So maybe you got in over here trying to go for the retest. And then it flipped. And then flip. That sounds like what happened. Like you got in around like 1 p.m. Eastern. You got in around 1, trying to catch it for the retest. And then it pulled back. And then you got out and then it went back up. Spot to the 5. It was morning. Yeah, Shay. Got you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I did my play around, it was It looks like it probably was right before 9 a.m. Central Time. So I don't know why I don't see a gap on your chart, and I'm using TradingView.
The gap's there. You don't see the gap because I had pre-market on.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. So you see the gravestone, the red gravestone, grave doji, whatever it's called. So pretty much I entered that while it was still bullish.
Mm-hmm.
When I entered, it immediately dropped. So I was down like freaking 28, 30%. So I got out. And then it went all the way up until you see that that red candle that then reversed into that trend. So that's how it faked me out.
Why'd you get up?
Because I was down like 30%. Like it dropped so quick as soon as I entered.
Yeah.
And I have like I pretty much put like I guess you can call it a trend line on where I wanted it to break. And so when it broke it, I immediately got in, but it reversed like immediately. Well, faked me out because then I saw that it did exactly what I expected it to do.
Yeah. So you it don't sound like you really got faked out. Really, it sounds like you didn't. I don't know if you did look at the chart and just look at it retesting the previous resistance as support. Because that's all it did is it previously had this as resistance, broke through. I see why you entered it. I would have understand that entry. I would have took that as well. But then it came back and it just retested the previous resistance as support test, and you get your pushes back up to fill the gap. Did you look at your chart while you were in the trade, or you just exited purely based off of looking at your percentage?
I was looking at the chart.
Okay.
But yeah, it scared me. So I got out. But then, of course, I was upset because it went back in the direction I thought it would go.
Yeah. What you had a same day expiration?
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
still ended the day green though because I took like four more trades, but that one really bothered me.
Okay, that's all it was. That's really all it was just that retest of the original resistance area. So I mean, you stuck to your rules, which is good. That's one of the things, like, I always talk about looking at the price action before it just getting out, because that prevents that situation from happening. But I'm glad you got it back. She mute. She did mute. Every time you mute, I gotta unmute you.
My bad, I didn't know you had to do that. Yes, I did get it back. So which was great. But again, like that was a nice play.
Yeah, it was. So good job. I mean, you caught it. So you can't be mad at yourself either. You just, next time when it's happening and playing out, keep in mind, just like the trend lines we were looking at, that there'll be a retest.
Gotcha.
So all right, well, that's the trend line class, man. Unless y'all got more questions about trend lines. But trend lines are pretty straightforward. To recap, you're just connecting swing highs, swing lows. Swing highs and swing lows are based off of just the overall movement, right? Swing high, swing low. You can do it on any time frame, right? You get a break of the trend line, you can trade it off the usually when it's a breakout, I like to wait on a break and a retest and then continuation. You can use them as support and resistance, and you can use them to help you form other patterns such as triangles, flags, pennants, things of that nature. So you're welcome. I feel, man, geez. I'm like, Yeah. Okay. Well, good class, y'all. All right. I'm about to in the recording. Y'all can unmute, man.